Chosen one, there are moments in your life that feel ordinary on the surface. But deep beneath them, something ancient begins to move. You didn't notice it at first. It didn't arrive with noise or warning. It came quietly, almost like a whisper brushing against your soul. And yet, something inside you shifted, something unexplainable. That moment, when Jay entered your life, was not random. It was not coincidence. It was not luck. It was the beginning of a change so powerful, so precise, that even now you are still unfolding into what it started. You thought it was just another encounter, just another name, another face, another passing connection in the endless flow of people that come and go. But what you didn't realize is that some meetings are written long before you are born. Some connections are not chosen by you, they are assigned to you. And Jay was never an accident. Jay was alignment. Jay was timing. Jay was the exact key that unlocked something within you that had been sleeping for far too long. Because before Jay, you were moving, but not fully awake. You were living, but not fully aware. You were choosing, but not always in alignment with who you were meant to become. And then suddenly, something changed. Maybe it was the way they spoke. Maybe it was the way they saw you, without you having to explain yourself. Maybe it was the discomfort, the tension, the unexpected emotions that surfaced when they appeared. But whatever it was, it stirred something undeniable inside you. That stirring was not confusion. That stirring was recognition. You see, when destiny enters your life, it doesn't always feel peaceful. Sometimes it feels like disruption. Sometimes it feels like everything you thought was stable begins to shake. And you wonder why, you question it. You try to make sense of it logically. But destiny does not ask for your understanding before it begins its work. It simply arrives and begins to rearrange everything. Jay was that rearrangement, not to destroy you, but to reveal you. Because there were parts of yourself you had hidden, parts you had ignored, parts you had silenced because they didn't fit the life you were trying to maintain. But Jay didn't come to fit into your life. Jay came to shift your life, to challenge your patterns, to expose your fears, to bring to the surface everything you needed to confront in order to grow. And growth, chosen one, is never comfortable. It pulls you out of your habits. It forces you to see what you avoided. It places you face to face with truths you tried to escape. And suddenly, you are no longer the same person you were before that moment. That is why you can't go back. That is why things don't feel the same anymore. Because once the shift begins, there is no returning to who you used to be. You may have asked yourself, why now? Why did Jay appear at this exact moment? Why not earlier? Why not later? Because timing is everything. And you were approaching a decision, a path, a turning point that would have led you further away from who you are meant to become. And right before that step, right before that choice, Jay entered, not randomly, precisely, to interrupt, to redirect, to awaken. You might not have understood it then. You might still be trying to understand it now. But deep inside, there is a knowing, a quiet certainty that this connection carries weight, that it means something more than what is visible, that it is part of something bigger than your current understanding. And that knowing is your soul recognizing truth. Because not every connection changes you. Not every person leaves a mark that alters your direction. But when someone becomes the catalyst for your awakening, you feel it, even if you try to deny it. Even if you try to walk away from it. It lingers. It echoes. It follows you in your thoughts, in your decisions, in the way you begin to see yourself differently. Jay didn't just enter your life. Jay activated something within you, a realization, a questioning, a deeper awareness of who you are and what you can no longer ignore. And with that activation comes responsibility. Because once you see, you cannot unsee. Once you feel, you cannot unfeel. Once you awaken, you cannot go back to sleep. That is why things may feel heavier now. That is why your thoughts feel deeper. That is why your perspective is shifting in ways you didn't expect. You are not losing yourself. You are meeting yourself. And J was the mirror. Not a coincidence, not a mistake. A mirror placed in your path so you could finally see what had been hidden beneath the surface. Your strength, your fear, your potential, your resistance, everything. And mirrors are not always comfortable. They show you truth without filters. They reveal both light and shadow. And when you are not ready to face that reflection, it can feel overwhelming. It can feel confusing. It can even feel painful. But pain is not punishment. Pain is transformation in motion, because the version of you that existed before J cannot exist in the same way after. That version was limited. That version was unaware. And now, you are being expanded beyond that limitation. This is why you feel pulled in different directions. One part of you wants to stay the same, to hold on to what is familiar, to avoid the uncertainty. But another part of you, a deeper, quieter, more powerful part, is urging you forward, urging you to step into something greater, even if you don't fully understand it yet. That is the shift. That is the beginning. And it all traces back to that moment you thought was random. But nothing about it was random. Every word, every glance, every feeling, every reaction, it was all part of a sequence designed to wake you up, to move you, to position you exactly where you need to be for what is coming next. Because this is not the end of the change. This is the start of it. You are still in the unfolding, still in the process, still becoming, and there will be moments where you doubt it, moments where you question whether any of this is real or meaningful, moments where you try to convince yourself that it was just coincidence after all. But those moments will never fully settle within you, because truth, once revealed, cannot be erased. It stays, it calls you forward. It reminds you that something has begun inside you that cannot be ignored. So instead of resisting it, you must learn to observe it, to understand it, to move with it instead of against it. Because the more you resist, the more difficult the transformation becomes. But when you allow it, when you accept that this is happening for a reason, everything begins to align in ways you could not have planned. J was the trigger, but you are the transformation, and everything that follows from this moment will depend on whether you choose to remain who you were, or step into who you are becoming. Because right here, right now, chosen one, you stand between two versions of yourself. One is familiar, predictable, comfortable in its limitations. The other is unknown, expanding, calling you into a life that requires courage, awareness, and truth. And the presence of J did not create this crossroads. It revealed it. You were already approaching this moment. You were already feeling the quiet unrest inside you, the subtle sense that something in your life was no longer aligned. You may have ignored it. You may have distracted yourself from it. But deep down, you knew a shift was coming. And when J appeared, it was as if that inner voice suddenly grew louder, clearer, impossible to silence. This is how transformation begins. Not with certainty, but with disruption. You see, people often think that change arrives in a way that feels good, that feels easy, that confirms everything they already believe. But real change does the opposite. It challenges you. It confronts you. It forces you to question the identity you've built and the patterns you've been repeating. And J became the reflection of that challenge. Maybe they said things that stayed with you longer than expected. Maybe their presence made you feel seen in ways you weren't ready for. Or maybe they triggered emotions you couldn't immediately explain. Tension, curiosity, resistance, even fear. But none of that was random. Every reaction you had was pointing you towards something deeper within yourself. Because the truth is, chosen one, you don't react strongly to something that means nothing. The intensity you felt was the evidence. Evidence that something within you recognized the significance of that moment. Even if your mind tried to rationalize it away, your soul doesn't operate on logic. It operates on alignment. And when something aligns with your path, your true path, it sends signals, strong ones. That is why you couldn't simply ignore Jay. That is why their presence lingered, even in their absence. That is why your thoughts kept returning to that moment, replaying it, trying to understand it. But understanding is not the first step, awareness is. And now you are aware that something has shifted, aware that you cannot go back to the version of yourself who was unaware of this deeper layer of existence. And with awareness comes responsibility, the responsibility to choose differently, to move differently, to see yourself and your life with greater clarity. This is where many people hesitate, because awareness without action creates tension. You begin to see what needs to change, but you are not yet ready to change it. You recognize the patterns, but you are still attached to them. You feel the pull towards something greater, but you are afraid of what it will require you to release. And so you stay in between, not fully who you were, but not yet who you are becoming. That space is where you are now, and it is not a comfortable place to be. It can feel confusing, overwhelming, even isolating, because the people around you may not understand what you're going through. They may not see the shift the way you feel it. To them, everything might seem the same, but to you, everything feels different. That difference is your awakening, and awakenings are not meant to be easy. They are meant to be real. They strip away illusions. They remove the layers of false identity you've built over time. They expose the truth, not just about your life, but about yourself. And once that process begins, it does not stop until you either embrace it or resist it to the point of suffering. Because resistance does not stop transformation, it only makes it harder. Jay was not placed in your life to confuse you. Jay was placed in your life to clarify you, to show you what you've been avoiding, to bring to light the parts of yourself that have been waiting to be acknowledged. And the more you reflect on it, the more you will begin to see patterns, connections, moments that seemed small at the time, but now feel significant. You will start to realize that this was not just one moment. It was a sequence, a chain of events leading you to this exact point of awareness. Nothing was wasted. Every interaction, every emotion, every thought, it all served a purpose, to prepare you. Because what is coming next requires a version of you that is more aware, more aligned, more willing to step into truth without hesitation. And you cannot become that version without first being shaken out of the old one. That is why things had to feel intense. That is why it couldn't be subtle. That is why it had to reach you in a way that you could not ignore. Because if it had been gentle, you might have overlooked it. If it had been easy, you might not have taken it seriously. But because it disrupted you, you paid attention, and now you are here, standing at the threshold of change. The question is no longer whether Jay was random. The question is, what are you going to do with what it started? Because this is where your power comes in. Jay may have been the catalyst, But the continuation of this transformation is entirely in your hands. You can choose to grow, to evolve, to step into the discomfort and allow it to shape you into something greater. Or you can choose to retreat, to deny, to convince yourself that none of this matters. But even if you try to retreat, you will feel it. That quiet pull. That inner voice reminding you that something has begun that cannot simply be undone. And the longer you ignore it, the louder it becomes. Because you are not meant to stay the same. You are meant to expand, to rise beyond the version of yourself that was comfortable but limited, to step into a reality that reflects your true potential, not your past conditioning. And that requires letting go of old beliefs, old habits, old ways of seeing yourself and the world. Letting go is not loss. It is space. Space for something new to enter. Space for clarity, for purpose, for alignment. And sometimes, the reason something or someone enters your life is not to stay forever, but to initiate a process that leads you to where you are meant to be. This is where many people misunderstand the purpose of connections like J. They think the significance lies in the duration, in how long it lasts, in what it becomes externally. But the true significance lies in what it activates internally, and what J activated in you is something that will continue to unfold long after the moment itself has passed. Because transformation does not depend on presence. It depends on impact. And the impact has already been made. You feel it in the way you think differently now, in the way you question things you once accepted without thought, in the way you are becoming more aware of your choices, your patterns, your direction. That is the change. And it is only just beginning. There will be more moments like this, more realizations, more shifts. Because once you step onto this path of awareness, life begins to reveal itself to you in layers, each layer bringing you closer to your true self, your true purpose. But it all started with that one moment. That moment you thought was random. That moment you almost dismissed. That moment that changed everything. And as you move forward, you will begin to see that nothing in your life is random. That every encounter, every experience, every challenge is part of a greater design, one that is guiding you toward who you are meant to become. You are not lost. You are being led, even when it feels uncertain, even when it feels difficult, even when you don't have all the answers. Because clarity does not come all at once. It comes step by step, realization by realization, moment by moment. And right now, you are in one of those moments, a moment of awakening, a moment of choice, a moment where you decide whether you will continue to live unconsciously or step into awareness and embrace the transformation that has already begun within you. J was the signal, but you are the one who must respond, and how you respond will shape everything that comes next. And how you respond will shape everything that comes next. Because this is the part no one talks about, chosen one, the moment after the realization, when the silence settles in and you are left alone with what you now know. There is no distraction strong enough to erase it, no explanation simple enough to reduce it. It stays with you, steady, patient, waiting for you to acknowledge that something irreversible has already taken place within you. You may try to go back to how things were. You may try to return to old patterns, old ways of thinking, old habits that once felt normal. But something will feel off. Something will not sit right anymore. That is because you have crossed an invisible line. Not in the physical world, but within your awareness. And once that line is crossed, you cannot pretend you don't see what you now see. This is where your strength is tested, not in dramatic moments, but in quiet decisions, in the way you choose to think when no one is watching, in the way you choose to act when you are faced with the same situations that once kept you stuck. This is where the transformation becomes real. J did not come to complete your journey. J came to begin it. And now the path is yours to walk. There will be days when you feel powerful, aligned, certain that you are moving in the right direction. And there will be days when doubt creeps in, when you question everything, when you wonder if you imagined the significance of it all. But even in those moments, there will be something deeper inside you that refuses to fully let go of what you felt. That is your truth anchoring you. You are not meant to have all the answers right now. You are meant to move forward with what you have been shown, to trust the shift, even when you cannot fully explain it, to follow the inner knowing, even when it leads you away from what is familiar, because what is familiar is not always what is right, and what is right will not always feel familiar at first. This is why courage is required, not loud, dramatic courage, but quiet, consistent courage, the kind that shows up in your daily choices, the kind that pushes you to grow, even when it would be easier to stay the same. You are not here by accident. You are not experiencing this by chance. You are in the middle of something that was set into motion the moment J entered your life. And every step you take from here will either bring you closer to who you are becoming, or pull you back toward who you have already outgrown. So listen closely to yourself. Pay attention to what feels true, not just what feels easy. Notice what expands you, not just what comforts you. Because your path is no longer about staying comfortable. It is about becoming aligned. And alignment requires honesty. Honesty about what you feel. Honesty about what you know deep down. Honesty about what you can no longer ignore. The moment everything started to change was not loud. It was not obvious. But it was real. And it marked the beginning of a version of you that is still unfolding, still rising, still stepping into a life that reflects something deeper, something greater, something undeniable. J was never random. It was the moment your life stopped moving unconsciously and started moving with purpose.